And I had to really rack my brain to think, other than Walmart and Target in my town, where can I go to buy dish towels? What a simple thing, right? Now, imagine that Walmart and Target start doing this. Imagine that Walmart and Target put everybody out of business, and there's only Walmart and Target. Where are you going to shop? If they start putting incredible demands on you, if they start asking you to present who knows what. So even if the system remains open and there's no overt imposition, there's no overt rule that says you must, you're not going to have much choice. I mean, I pretty much must shop at Walmart or Target if I want dish towels. I found a way around it, but it was tough. So this oneness idea, imagine that Walmart and Target are the only stores left on the globe, and the entire planet is now Walmart and Target. Walmart could make one imposition, and millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people could be affected by one rule that Walmart made. So if Walmart made the rule, you must identify yourself to buy here. Guess what? Most of the world's going to have to identify themselves to make a purchase. Walmart has that kind of power. And let me tell you something Walmart just did in case you doubt that. In the 1970s, Walmart single-handedly caused the rest of the country to adopt the barcode. Almost single-handedly. There was a time where the barcode was out there, but there was a lot of resistance on the part of consumers. Mark of the beast, concern, worry, impersonalization, etc. People didn't want to do it. Walmart made a mandate. Now, in the 70s, you think Walmart wasn't even that big, right? Well, Walmart made a mandate, late 70s, early 80s, that said, if you are going to sell products through our store, you got to put a barcode on them, or we won't sell them. And believe me, they snapped into line like that. Now, that was before Walmart was the world's biggest retailer. Walmart right now is massive. And in fact, you know what Walmart just made an announcement of 2 months ago? They made an announcement that their 100 top suppliers must become compliant with this radio frequency identification technology. Their top 100 suppliers must put these tiny chips at least onto the cases and the pallets in the warehouse. The pallet is the thing that the forklift lifts up, that wooden thing with all the products on it. They said, you got to get compliant with that. You got to learn how to use that, right? You got to put that into your factory, or you will not be able to sell your products at Walmart. Now, Walmart's the 800-pound gorilla. They tell suppliers to do something. Suppliers jump. And in fact, the whole industry right now is investing enormous amounts of money to try to comply with that. And by the following year, they want that by the end of 2004. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that individual products in Walmart stores are going to have those on them, but it's coming. It's coming real soon. So Walmart has an extraordinary amount of power. Right? So this oneness thing is real. Pressure to comply. Stores, retailers, and all of the people participating in buying and selling things across the world are all being pressured to get on board with the same standardized systems. The same standardized systems that involve the internet, digital payment technologies, Visa card, etc. If they come out with a system that says everybody's got to present a mark, everything will be in place to make that possible, in fact, pretty quickly, because of all this standardization. This is a book called Adapt or Die, and it was handed out to CEOs from around the world who came to Boston last month to attend something called a CEO Forum for RFID adoption. RFID being these tiny chips they want to put in everything and possibly everybody. And this was the book they handed out to those CEOs. They came to learn about it, but what they were told was, listen, you're going to be dinosaurs unless you adopt it, and you better adopt it now. And they're scrambling to do it. Huge amounts of money are going into this. Now, let's come back to what brought us down this whole path of talking about the technologies in place today, and this is Revelations. Let's look at this. He also forced everyone, okay? We know we can identify everyone now. Small and great, rich and poor, free and slave. Let's go back to that free and slave or free and bond slide that we saw earlier where we had the prison guard and the prisoner. They're wearing wristwatches. The wristwatches they're wearing are very similar to that Timex payment wristwatch. They're very similar to the Mark of the Beast. All right, excuse me. Let me take that back. I slip of the tongue. They're very similar to the Verichip implant that would be beaming out individual information and be capable of being tracked through that. That's exactly what those are. They're tracking devices. They have radio frequency devices in them. They can be read at a distance. And they keep track of both the jailer and the jailed equally. Right? So, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead. You know what? It doesn't make sense for me to have a Verichip implanted here because if I go to pay, I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to be doing that. Where would be the logical place to put it? What's the easiest thing I could slap onto there to make a payment? My hand. So that would be the obvious place. Maybe here, maybe you kind of, if it's like that, maybe I do that. We don't know, top, bottom of the hand. But somewhere on the hand would be the easiest thing to slip into a payment system. Let's say I have no hands, and I think someone in the audience asked that question before we got started. So I have no hands. The payment system's over there. What am I going to do? My knee? No. My elbow? No, I don't have it. My shoulder? No. My head. It's the easiest, most flexible part of my body if I don't have hands. So a forehead would definitely fit the bill in that case. All right, so receive a mark in his right hand or on his forehead so that none could buy or sell unless he had the mark. We can see how that's possible. Which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now, let me move on to the next slide, and we'll address that. Here is wisdom. Let he who has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man or the number of a man, depending on how you want to interpret it. And his number is 603 score and 6. All right. Let's look back. The name of the beast or the number of his name has been the subject of countless thousands of pages of machinations and supposition and codes and changing Hebrew letters and Greek letters and Roman letters and converting stuff, and it's all been really confusing and crazy. Let me tell you what I believe, and I certainly don't have any, direct access to the truth here. Just something I've thought about a lot. It is my feeling that this mark of the beast required to buy or sell is going to be so obvious. It's going to be like the nose on the end of your face. You're not going to miss it. When that mark of the beast comes, you're going to know it's the mark of the beast. They're going to say, hold out your right hand. We want to put a mark in there so you can make payment, so you can buy and sell. It's not going to be some tricky thing you're not going to see coming. It is also my sense, based on this book and others like it, of how many contortions they had to go through to try to come up with what this mark might be, when this generation, when it's actually maybe on the brink of happening, it's so obvious to us. Of course, there's a Verichip, of course. No question. That when it comes time when that 666 is out there, whoever is alive at that time when that comes, it's going to be just as obvious to them what that's going to mean. And I personally, and you can do whatever you want, code-wise or number-wise, or believe whatever theory you want out there, but I personally believe that we probably don't have to engage in a whole lot of speculation about that at this point in time, because when the time comes, we'll know what that means. That's my guess. Now, the name of the beast or the number of his name, now that is something I can speak to. Think about how you would represent your name in a computer. When I type in Katherine Albrecht in my Microsoft Word program and I hit save and I've got my name in there, my name is recorded as a series of numbers because that's how computers record information. It's not in there as a word. It's in there as a series of numbers. So it's possible the name of the beast or the number of his name, well, gosh, if you computerized it and encoded it in something, it would be a number. And so this might be a very literal way of explaining that. A name or the number of the name, meaning the same thing in a computer. Now, the last piece here, let him who has understanding count the number of the beast. That's tough to do right now. I don't know what that is. But it does tell us it is the number of man or the number of a man. Now, if it's the number of a man, I don't know who that man is at this time, and I don't know what his number would be. But if it's the number of man, there is no number, more specifically you. There is no identifier, more specifically you, than your DNA. And if you think back to that Japanese card that I showed you that had the DNA mark on it, that would be probably the best definition I can think of the number of man or the number of an individual man. Because there's nothing else about you that would be unchanging. And even iris scanning, illness can change the shape of your iris. Even fingerprints, if you get burned or get in an accident. In fact, people who do a lot of, I think masons who lay bricks can actually rub their fingerprints off. Facial recognition doesn't work because as you age and change, your facial structure will actually change. So the only really foolproof way of identifying you would be through DNA. And there are technologies out there. In fact, I just heard this week that they are now able to extract DNA from fingerprints, the actual little tiny bit of oil you leave when you touch something. They can actually pull that out and extract your DNA from it. The technology of identifying people through DNA is becoming more and more sophisticated, and it will be possible at some point to identify you through your DNA in real time. Real time meaning take a little sample and figure out immediately who you are. Right? So when I read this, I don't know if it's the number of a man, and we'll all know when he comes, and his number will be, maybe he'll have a big crown that says 666, I don't know. But it's possible to think about it this way also, that the number of a man or the number of an individual could be their DNA encoded in the Verichip to correspond to them. Why would you want to do that instead of just assigning one of those 33-bit numbers randomly selected by the Auto ID Center or whoever? The reason you'd want to do that is because if I kidnapped one of you and dug out your little chip, I could stick it in my hand, and then I could be you. I could go out making purchases, put my hand around, right? Using up your bank account.